I've been a member with the department for 3 years now. I was a volunteer for 2 years, and I just completed my first year as a career firefighter back in July.
And is becoming a volunteer a necessary beginning to becoming a fireman?
Yes, we have a requirement here that you have to be a member of your volunteer department for approximately 2 years. That makes you eligible to take the written test for appointment to the career department.
And what about the EMT part that you just mentioned?
The EMT part is a requirement to become a career firefighter. If a volunteer wishes to become an EMT, they are sent through the training, paid for by the department. But within your first year, you have to have your EMT certificate. It's a new requirement. It's part of our job description now.
Is being a fireman something you always wanted to do from the time you were little?
Yes, I come from a firefighter family. I'm a fourth-generation firefighter. My father, who's still on the fire department here on Westfield, is a captain. I have an uncle who just retired as a lieutenant, and I have a great uncle that was the past chief of department here as well as many cousins.
And generally speaking, what are your duties?
Basically, our duties range from fire service to medicals to anything else you could think of. We've been called for everything from car lockouts, house lockouts, to working structure fires, and now weather emergencies is within the past few months with the tragedy at Westfield High. We can respond from one thing to the next.
And have you been involved? You have been involved in all these aspects of it.
Yes.
In the 1 year that you've been on the force.
Yes, I've seen a lot in my 1 year. Some would say you're lucky, and others would say you're not. And personally, I don't feel I'm lucky to see all the stuff I've seen.
Can I answer the question in here before you move into the New York stuff?
Sure.
I was wondering, as a firefighter EMT, how you guys work in conjunction with the Westfield Rescue Squad.
We don't.
Basically, ours we work as a support role.
Look at her, not at me.
We work as a support role with the rescue squad. They are the primary EMS caregivers for the town. If for some reason that their services are either unavailable due to all three ambulances being busy, which does happen at times in town, or their staffing is not adequate, then they rely on us to provide the additional manpower. In instances where we have multiple patients, we're called because we do carry at least 3 EMTs on all our shifts. Our shift happens to be heavy with 6. So we can provide additional manpower if need be when there's an incident where multiple patients are.
So it's not competition, it's cooperation with the rescue squad.
Yes, we cooperate with them. They provide a very important service, and without them, this town would be in a lot of trouble. They're very well run, and we appreciate their support, and hopefully they appreciate us as well.
On September 11, 2001, were you a member of the Westfield Fire Department?
Yes, I was just completing my second month here as a career firefighter.
And tell me about that day as you recall. How did it begin for you?
I was on my day off. I was due to come in the next day, so I was on recall. I was working my side job, in which I work as an EMT. I used to work in a conjoining town here, and working as a paid EMS service. And I can remember being woken up that morning at 8:30 by hearing the police officers on the radio saying you could see it from the Parkway overpass. Not really sure what they were talking about. I went to the radio room and tried to find out what was going on, and nothing was. So I turned on the TV thinking, well, if there was a big plume of smoke from a fire, probably I want to be one of the morning news networks. Being that the Trade Center has a big tower, antenna tower on the roof, local channels 2, 4, 7 were all out. So I turned to CNN, and that's when I first saw it. It was just after the second plane had crashed into the Trade Center.
What did you do then?
I told my partner, who was in the other room, who was unaware of it, and I said, you got to turn the TV on. He was in the middle of something. He says, is it important? I said, yeah, I think you might want to know about this. And then we turned it on, and from then, it was just mass chaos in Cranford. People were calling for ambulances, not even really having to do with this incident, just people having asthma attacks due to the stress. People that knew somebody in town. This area of town is a bedroom community for New York City. As you can see, the train station will be loaded with cars on weekdays for people taking the train. And same town that I worked in is the same thing. And people are panicking, having panic attacks, having asthma attacks, fainting. And I remember telling my partner while we were humping probably our 3rd or 4th call within 2 hours that we're not going home tonight. And I can remember finally getting a hold of my parents, telling them, I don't think I'm coming home tonight. I don't know when I'm coming home.
Did you get a call from the fire department to return here to the firehouse in Westfield?
I got a phone call through our dispatcher. I was out on a call at the time of my other job, approximately 10 o'clock, 10:30, stating that my crew had been recalled. I made the arrangements to get relief in for myself, and I made my way to the firehouse around 11:30. About 20 minutes after the engine company from here had already left to respond over in the first wave.
And then what was your responsibility? What did you do then?
We were told that we were now covering for EMS care in the town, being that the rescue squad had sent additional personnel and their ambulances over, leaving one ambulance left for the town. I went up, got changed like a lot of the other firemen, got my uniform on, got my equipment, got my position on the apparatus, and waited. We were getting calls here in relation to New York City. We would get smoke calls, people smelling smoke or smoke in the area. Ended up being that the smoke cloud, the wind changed and blew the smoke into the town. People were calling thinking there's fires in their neighborhood. We had to tell them that, no, that's the smoke from the Trade Center.
And were you asked to go as a part of one of the teams to go to New York to help?
Yes, I was assigned by Chief Castellano to be the second team or group of firefighters to go over to represent Westfield, and we made our way over to the staging area at King College around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Made our way into Brooklyn somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock.
How did you get there?
We were bussed over. On our bus was not only Westfield firefighters, we had a group from Union, Roselle. A good portion of the county was represented on our bus. Actually, there's two buses. We were given a police escort into the city.
And where did you go in the city once you got there?
We made our way over to Goethals into Staten Island for our forward command post. I can remember going over to Staten Island through the Goethals Bridge. When we came up to it, parked right at the front of the bridge was a tank with military personnel in full fatigues and M16s walking the bridge. And to see a tank sitting at the entrance to the Goethals Bridge was, it hit home. I can remember on the bus going over there that the guys were talkative up to that point, and as soon as you hit that point and you could visibly see everything, the bus went quiet. I don't think anybody said a word until we were dispersed.
What were you personally thinking at that point?
I can personally thinking. I remember being, what am I doing here? How did this happen? Is this a dream? But at the same time, I knew that, well, this is what I get paid to do. I chose this profession. I'm going to do what I have to do. And we did it.
And tell me, what happened once you got to the foot of the Goethals Bridge? What did you do
We were
then?
escorted into Staten Island to the forward command post. At that time, they registered everybody in, who was where, who came in on this new wave, got everybody's name. It was very important to get accountability in the fire service. We were checked in. We were told that we would be going to engine 241, ladder 109 on 3rd Avenue in Brooklyn to relieve the first wave of Westfield firefighters. And we made our way there, probably got there around 11 o'clock.
Was the Westfield equipment there already?
Yes, we were there. We were there with members of the Union Fire Department, Plainfield, and as well as Summit Fire Department were stationed at this house with, of course, members of the New York City Fire Department as well.
And the Westfield people that you relieved, were they taken back to Westfield in the bus?
Yeah, it was basically a relief. We came in, they left. They gave us the rundown of what they were doing, where they were riding, and we divided up our personnel to replace the other ones.
Did you personally see action? Did you see equipment coming back from fighting the fire?
Approximately an hour later, 12, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, we were approached by a member, a high-ranking officer, I believe it was a battalion chief or a captain of that firehouse in state, and told us that we were going to be relocated to Tillery Street, engine 207, ladder 110, being that their engine company was out of service. We were responded there through the streets of Brooklyn, and it was in the downtown section of Brooklyn by the base of Tillery Street, by the base of the Brooklyn and Manhattan Bridge, closer to Ground Zero. Probably would have been the next step in to Ground Zero if need be. And when we arrived there, we were told that we were going to be replacing engine 207.
Did you see smoke? Did you smell smoke? Did you see evidence of fire?
Yeah, you could smell it the whole way when you got in. As soon as you hit that Goethals Bridge, you smelled it. You smelled it here as well in Westfield. It was a very acidic smell. It didn't smell like a wood burning fire or anything like that. It was a smell that was very unique, and it's a smell that I probably still smell once in a while, but I can't describe it beyond that. It was very unique.
How long were you there? How long did you stay?
We were probably there around 20 hours until we were relieved the next day, probably around 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And did you see any kind of service during that 20 hours?
Yeah, we received. We saw a lot of calls, ranging from fire alarms to smells and bells, as we call them in the fire service, alarms and odor investigations. Typical calls that a fire service runs on.
And you did help to put out the fires?
No, we were not arranged. We were not assigned to any fires in Brooklyn. Other areas of the cities had fires, but it was a relatively quiet night in the city.
How do you feel about being a fireman after witnessing what you did and being part of it?
I've always known that I wanted to be a firefighter since I've been a little kid. Being brought up in this firehouse is like a second home for me. And before I was proud to be a fireman, but ever since this, it's an indescribable feeling I get. I look forward to coming to work every day. You know, when that bell goes off for the fire, you don't know what you're doing, but your heart starts pounding and your blood pressure rises, and you know, this is what we do. And we're not heroes, we're ordinary people doing a job. It's just our job's dangerous sometimes. We try to come home after every call.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could I add one more question?
Yes, yes.
I'd love to know, have you noticed a reaction from the average citizen when they realize that you're a fireman?
Yeah, I think first after the incident of September 11th, when you were told someone you were a firefighter, they, immediately thanked you, and you had to tell them that there's no thanks necessary. We're doing our job. It still continues today. Guys walk by the firehouse, they say hello and thank you and whatnot, and they see you on the road. They take that. Appears that they're taking that extra second to watch you drive by, and they take, whether they're saying a silent prayer. I've seen people do signs of crosses when fire trucks go by now. I think the public really sees the fire service now differently. It's that it's not just putting fires out anymore. We're used for whatever people need us for.
Do you feel particularly proud now to be a firefighter?
Extremely proud, more than ever, to be a fireman. And I'm proud not only to be a fireman, but I'm proud to work with the guys I work with. I wouldn't want to be with anybody else.